as you've written in referring to the previous Twitter CEO, Elon said Twitter needs a fire-breathing dragon. I think this is a good opportunity to maybe go through some of the memorable moments of the Twitter saga, as you've written about extensively in your book, from the early days of considering the acquisition to how it went through to the details of, like you mentioned, the engineering teams.
Well, at the beginning of 2022, he was riding high. But as we say, he's a drama addict. He doesn't like to coast. And, Tesla sold 1 million vehicles. I think 33 boosters, Falcon 9s have been shot up and landed safely in the past few months. And he was the richest person on Earth and Times Person of the Year. And yet he said, I'm still want to put all my chips back on the table. I want to keep taking risks. I don't want to savor things. He had sold all of his houses. So he starts secretly buying shares of Twitter. January, February, March, becomes public at a certain point. He has to declare it. And we were here in Austin at Gigafactory on the mezzanine. And he was trying to figure out, well, where do I go from here? And at that time, it was early April, they were going to offer him a board seat. And he was going to do a standstill agreement and stop at 10% or something. And I remember, we were standing around. It was Luke Nozick, whom you know well, Ken Howry, some of his friends on that mezzanine here. And all afternoon and then late into the evening at dinner is like, should we do this? And I didn't say anything. I'm just the observer. But everybody else is saying, excuse me, why do you want to own Twitter? And Griffin, his son, joined at dinner. And May, for some reason, was in town. And like everybody says, no, we don't use Twitter. Why would you do that? And May said, well, I use Twitter. And it's almost like, okay, the demographics are people my age or May's age. And so it looked like he wasn't going to pursue it. They offered him a board seat. And then he went off to Hawaii to Larry Ellison's house, which he sometimes uses. He was meeting a friend, Angela Bassett, an actress. And instead of enjoying 3 days of vacation, he just became supercharged and started firing off text messages, including the fire-breathing dragon one. I think, he used that phrase a few times, that Parag wasn't the person who was going to take Twitter to a new level. And then by the time he gets to Vancouver, where Grimes meets him, they stay up all night playing Elden Ring. He was doing a TED Talk. And then at 5:30, he finishes playing the Elden Ring and sends out that, I've made an offer. Even when he comes back, people are trying to intervene and say, excuse me, why are you doing it? And so it was a rocky period between late April and October when the deal closed. And people ask me all the time, well, did he want to get out of the deal? I said, which Elon are you talking about at what time of day? Because there'll be times in the morning when he'd say, oh, the Delaware court's going to force me to do it. It's horrible. Talk to his lawyers. You can win this case. Get me out of it. He met here in Austin with 3 or 4 investment bankers, Blair Efron at Centerview, Bob Steele at Perella Weinberg. And they offered him options. Do you want to get out? Do you want to stay in? Do you want to reduce the price? And I think he was mercurial. There were times he would text me or say to me, this is going to be great. It's going to be the accelerant to do X.com the way we thought about 20 years ago. And so it's not until they finally tell him at the beginning of October, right when Optimus the robot is being unveiled in California, actually, that the lawyers say, you're not going to probably win this case, but better go through with the deal. And by then, he's not only made his peace with it, he's kind of happy with it at times. Eventually, the deal is going to close on I think a Friday morning. I have it in the book. And we're there on Thursday, and he's wandering around looking at the Stay Woke T-shirts and psychological safety lingo they're all using. And he and his lawyers and bankers hatched a plan to do a flash close. And the reason for that was if they closed the deal after the markets had closed for the day, and he could send a letter to Parag and 2 others firing them, quote, for cause, and this will be something the courts will have to figure out, then he could save $200 million or so. And it was both the money, but for him, a matter, I won't say of principle, but of, hey, they misled me about the numbers. I got forced into doing it. So I'm gonna try this jujitsu maneuver and be able to get some money out of them. Then when he takes over, it's kind of a wild scene. Him trying to decide in 3 different rounds how to get the staff down to 15% of what it was. Him deciding on Christmas Eve after he'd been at a meeting where they told him we can't get rid of that Sacramento server farm because it's needed for redundancy. And he says, no, it's not. And he's flying here to Austin. And young James says, why don't we just do it ourselves? He turns the plane around. They land in Sacramento and he pulls them out himself. So it was a manic period.
We should also say that underneath of that, there was a running desire to, or a consideration to perhaps start a new company, to build a social media company from scratch.
Well, Kimball wanted to do that. And Kimball here at a wonderful restaurant in Austin at lunch is like, hey, why are you buying Twitter? Let's start one from scratch and do it on the blockchain.
Yes.
Now, it took him a while, and you can argue it one way or the other, to come to the conclusion that the blockchain was not fast enough and responsive time enough to be able to handle 1 billion tweets, in a day or so. Mm-hmm. He gets mad when they keep trying to get him to talk to Sam Bankman-Fried, who's trying to say, I'll invest, but we have to do it on the blockchain. Kimball is still in favor of starting a new one and doing it on blockchain-based. In retrospect, I think starting a new media company would have been better. He wouldn't have had the baggage or the legacy that he's breaking now in breaking the way Twitter had been. But it's hard to have millions and millions, hundreds of millions of true users, not just trolls, and start from scratch, as others have found, as Mastodon and Blue Sky and Threads. And Threads even had a base. So it would have been hard.